Welcome, and thank you for your interest in meeting Everyone Needs a Community. We're going to take you with us on a deeper dive into the inspiration for our project and our challenges that lie ahead. We will begin with a short story about Tim Timid, which will help launch into our purpose and values of our organization. Welcome aboard. Hi, my name is Tim. I have an apartment. Isn't it great? I have a sofa. I have a job, too. I can sit on my sofa. I have a cat. Are you Tim Timid? Did you cut the cord on the vacuum cleaners again? I'm afraid I'm going to have to arrest you. Uh-oh. The landlord didn't understand that there are normal sounds that are truly painful for some autistic people. Maybe the landlord didn't think of vacuuming when Tim was at work. Maybe the landlord could have warned Tim so that Tim could protect himself with a headset when vacuuming was needed. We need to recognize that behavior is communication. Many autistic people are unable to self-advocate even if they can speak. It is a hidden weakness that many people don't understand. Tim is likely to never be able to stick up for himself or create options. Tim can do many things that make him independent, but he will need his parents or people who know him well to help him with the legal system. Even then, it may not turn out well. Tim's parents know a lot about Tim's autism and know that jail would be about the worst thing that could happen to Tim. They knew that Tim didn't understand about police or courts or laws or even jail. He probably had a minimal understanding that he couldn't cut the cords, but the sound was torture, and he knew only one way to make it stop. They knew he couldn't talk to the manager about it because of his autism. I can see here that Tim had no criminal intent and is likely not competent. I will dismiss the charges, but please pursue guardianship to help Tim in the future. Tim was one of the lucky ones. A study in 2012 estimated that 4.4% of incarcerated adults are autistic, more than double the known incidence of autism. The inability to understand social taboos, inability to recognize the motivations of others, make them particularly vulnerable to confrontations by law enforcement. Unfortunately, even with help from his parents, it could not save his housing. Despite living in an apartment for people with disabilities, he was evicted from a place where he had lived successfully, independently for 3 years. Without Tim's parents, Tim would have ended up homeless. It's estimated that 20 to 40% of homeless people have intellectual or developmental disabilities or both. Currently, there's no screening of homeless people for intellectual or developmental disabilities. Fortunately, Tim's parents found Tim a new place to live. Without his parents, Tim would have been homeless. Unfortunately, parents don't live forever. What will happen to Tim when his parents are gone? Tim needs friends, neighbors, and other supports. Tim and others like him have a lot of skills to live independently in the community, but need neighbors, friends, and other supports to protect their independence with advocacy and securing needed assistance. He needs people who know him to help him advocate for his needs. Where could autistic people like Tim live and thrive? The school systems, for the large part, have small divisions that understand autism and help the students thrive. Out in the greater community is like falling off a cliff into a hostile place that is filled with trauma. Where can our people like Tim
live and thrive in the greater community.
A few years ago, a local church put on A Night to Shine, which is a charity of the Tim Tebow Foundation that created a special prom evening for our adults with neurological differences. It was a wonderful event with an atmosphere of total acceptance and appreciation of each of the special guests. Each special guest was dressed as fancy as they wished, and volunteers helped with makeup, hair, and photography. There was music and joyous dancing, as well as snacks and punch. It was a magical event completely formed by people who understood and accepted and celebrated differences. How could we take a night like that and grow it into a community? By chance, Kathy saw an article about Treehouse Community in Western Massachusetts, where senior citizens were brought together with families adopting children who have experienced foster care. Many of the seniors have taken the foster parent training, making Treehouse a trauma-informed community. We need to build an autism-informed community. It isn't enough to be autism-aware. We found Treehouse to be a great model for creating an autism-aware community. Autism is different for each person. As the saying in the autism community goes, if you know a person with autism, you know one person with autism. There is so much to know and learn about how each person communicates, what they might be sensitive to, and what they like to do for pleasure. Change is hard for many autistic people. As we have seen, behavior is communication. Tim was communicating when he cut the cord on the vacuum cleaners, if only the management had understood the message. At Treehouse Community, they have a unique gathering of the property management, the Treehouse staff, and the Berkshire, Massachusetts Department of Children and Families, where they can all work together to support the community members to the best that they can be. The retirement age community members bring energy and the desire to socialize that can support the families in anything from giving rides to respite for parents becoming, in some situations, like adoptive grandparents. These older adults have the time and the desire to be part of making lives better. The community is all about building long-term relationships, precisely what many of the children are lacking. It opened in 2006 and has 14 years of award-winning experience behind it. The outcomes for these children have been outstanding and a sharp contrast to those in the foster system who age out and have no connections. ENC Inc., armed with the vision and site duplication training at Treehouse Community, aims to build an intergenerational community that is autism-informed. We're interpreting the Treehouse model for healthy aging and a autism-informed community. We will help create long-term relationships for our community members, improving the lives of all of the community members, particularly engaging the retirement age community members and those with autism. We met with community members at Treehouse who convinced us that this is truly an inspirational community model. One senior community member told us, "I never imagined that I could have a life like this at this age." She was always learning, was valued by her community members, and was as active or as inactive as she wished to be. Volunteering 6 hours a week in the community is the aim, but many of the community members do way more than that. It can be as little as baking brownies or as committed as staying with a family while the parents get much needed time away. Volunteering and working together builds relationships, creates energy, and satisfies our need to be needed. The design of the Treehouse Community is built about socialization. Each apartment is a cottage style with a front porch and a back patio. The people in our area, many have grown up on farms, and so living in an apartment building is not something they could possibly do. The cottage layout is very appealing to our more rural population. So where is ENC in its journey to this vision? Well, we have our 501c3 recognition from the IRS, and we are talking to and partnering with multiple organizations that have expertise that combines well with ours. Our families who are most supportive of this, unfortunately, have their hands tied at home because of their autistic loved ones. So many of the most engaged people are actually unable to roll up their sleeves and be part of the work of this effort. We have partnered with an experienced nonprofit developer, Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corps, who understands the importance of working together throughout the process from the start of design and beyond the build in the management of the property. They have built an apartment building with 40 rental units in New Glarus, Wisconsin, with 10 units devoted to people with autism. This provides a component of affordable as well as market rate rental units that are a big resource for much needed housing. They worked closely with a parent group in New Glarus and continue with the relationship after the build. They pride themselves in changing lives with their developments. We feel a solid mutual goal. We have met together with Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corps and the City of Marshfield Planning Group, and at the preliminary stages is the desired project for all. In Marshfield, there's a need for both low-end market rate as well as affordable rental property. The match with the needs of the city is excellent. As we started working on building ENC into a viable project, we first went around and did personal appearances and auditioned the idea with many different kinds of groups. We were very excited that there was universal endorsement by lots of different kinds of people that this sort of community should exist and would work in our area. Unfortunately, right after our very first public event, when we were gearing up to start recruiting volunteers, COVID lockdown occurred. And with COVID, we needed to go completely online. We focused on learning how to fundraise online, invested in donor management software, learned about seeking and writing grants, worked on our future corporate culture with our advisory group, learned as much as we could about how to build a nonprofit from zero to a self-perpetuating organization that continue doing good long after we're gone. Our main projects at this time include autism enlightenment videos, building our followers, and growing expertise on our board of directors. In progress, we are making materials that make it easier to talk about autism, to learn about autism, and to learn how to be a good friend or good neighbor to someone with autism. We have the good fortune of a volunteer graphic artist who's designed these great t-shirts. Every day is opposite day. Ask Me About Autism is a great conversation starter, and we give people 3 talking points. For example, it's very difficult for many people with autism to look you in the eye at the same time as listen to you. And law enforcement is taught that a lack of eye contact is a guilty look. It's also in rescue situations that a person with autism may be rescued from a burning house, but run back in seeking his or her place of comfort. Many people with autism prefer isolation, so the discipline strategy in the early years of school with time out is often not very effective. We are working to spread the word with public presentations, word of mouth, and currently a limited Facebook presence. We did our very first Facebook Giving Tuesday event, going through the process, but can see how much more could be done with more effort. We could use volunteers to spread the word in their networks, and it would be wonderful for us to find a volunteer to manage our Facebook presence. One of our biggest challenges currently is that we need volunteers. This has been challenging because of COVID, limiting our personal contact with people. Our biggest fans are families who live with autism, And with that, they are not available to roll up their sleeves and get involved. And third, we are in a small town that does have a more limited capacity of volunteers. There's a plus side to that too, is that many of us know each other, and once we can get out personally, we will be able to recruit more people to help. Our challenges certainly will be in bringing expertise of all kinds to the project where we can make it a long-term viable organization. In the short term, volunteers, expertise, and fundraising. Long term, expertise and fundraising. We are able to work with other organizations to bring in the expertise and cooperate and partner, as we have with Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corps. We will need ongoing funding for staff salaries in the model that we have chosen, as our model does not have billable services despite providing viable and needed services. The ideal staffing model of Treehouse is about $500,000 a year, which is too much for our small town of about 18,000 to sustain, period. It is a generous town, and we believe that the capital campaign will be successful. The rest of the startup will be challenging. We feel very fortunate to still be alive through COVID as a startup, as startup funds are challenging. Although many foundations say that they give them, most really don't give them to brand new organizations. As we all know, funding is our biggest long-term challenge and the one most out of our control. We haven't yet found a way to bump into Mackenzie Bezos while shopping on Amazon. Fortunately, our developer partner, Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corps, is experienced in securing low-income housing tax credits, which help create the affordable housing that's needed. Another item on our wish list is that we'd like to create the opportunity for home ownership. This not only allows for customizable spaces, but also prevents people from being able to be evicted. In our desire to create autism understanding, we recognize that we may not be able to change the world, but we know we can start with a community. I want to thank you so much for your interest. Continue to follow our progress on e-n-a-c.org and find us on Facebook. Everyone needs a community. Thank you so much. Have a great day.